Hi everyone, I am Dr. Soundararaj. I am very happy to interact with you all through this video. In this video, I am going to deliver my lecture on the topic 5 Forces of Competition contributed by Michael E. Porter. These are all a couple of details related to my career. After you watch the full video, if you find the video useful to you, give a like to the video. Do subscribe my channel and enable the notification so that you will get the notifications of my new videos. 5 Forces of Competition by Michael Porter. Let me introduce the topic and share with you the nature of industry competition. Every market or industry is different. Take any selection of industries and you should be able to find differences between them. Obviously, you can't find greater similarities between different industries of the global village. Perhaps you could find a lot of dissimilarities and differences between the various industries that exist in the global village. I am going to discuss with you the aspects based on which we could easily identify the differences between the various industries. In this regard, point number 1 is its size. Size, we speak about the sales revenue, volume, number of customers we find in the industries. These aspects greatly vary from one industry to other industry. Structure, it refers to the number of brands and competitors we find in every industry, based on which also you find quite a lot of dissimilarities between the industries. The third one is about distribution channels, how the product flows from producer to final consumer. The pattern of distribution channel which is being followed by companies in one industry could greatly vary from that of the companies in other industry. Customer needs and wants. We here speak about the basis for segmenting the market. The basis which are appropriate for segmenting a consumer product market or a market meant for convenience consumer products could be definitely different from the basis a company could follow for segmenting its market for shopping consumer products, like that. Growth, the rate of growth and which businesses are growing faster or slower than the market, than the industry average, that will also determine the level of competition in the industry. Product life cycle, and not only that, the life cycle of the industry on the whole, that is also a point of difference between the industries. Alternatives for consumers, availability of the substitute products will again determine the intensity of competition in each industry. It may not be the same for all industries. These are all the 5 forces that have been identified and contributed by Michael Porter, which will enable every one of us to understand the level and intensity of competition in each and every industry. Porter has identified 5 factors that act together to determine the nature of competition within an industry. He has put 3 of the 5 factors as forces from horizontal competition. The 3 factors or 3 forces could be kept in the same platform. That is why he says they contribute for horizontal competition. They are nothing but the threat of the substitute products or services, the threat of established rivals or competitors, and the threat of new entrants. He has also stated that there are 2 other forces which stand in the platform of vertical competition. They are the bargaining power of the suppliers. One is above the company, and the other one, the bargaining power of the customers, which is next to the company or below the company. Porter has identified that high or low industry profits are associated with a few characteristics. With regard to high industry profits, they are associated with weak suppliers, weak customers. That means customers with no or less bargaining powers. High entry barriers, strong entry barriers for the new companies. Few opportunities for the substitutes, or there are no substitutes available with regard to that particular industry, or little or no rivalry, no competition at all. If you find these aspects in an industry, that industry is associated with high profit. With regard to low industry profits, they are associated with a few factors which I am going to share with you now. Strong suppliers. The suppliers are very strong in that industry. They dictate terms with the companies which buy their requirements or their raw material for producing the products. Second one is about strong customers, the buyers. So it is a problem for the companies of an industry that either way both in the supply side and in the customer side, they are very strong. Both are dictating terms with the company. Obviously, these two are very important factors associated with low industry profit. What about the third one? Low entry barriers. Any company can enter into that industry just like that, because there are no cumbersome rules and regulations to be followed or to be fulfilled to enter into such industry. Many opportunities for substitutes. The moment you as a company increase price for your market offer, there is a greater possibility for customers to move towards substitutes. That is the nature of industry in which you are. And the next one is about intense rivalry. Since the entry barrier is very easy to overcome by the new entrants, you find quite a lot of companies compete with one another in an industry where you find competition is very, very high. Threat of new entrants. That's the first force of competition suggested by Michael Porter. If new entrants move into an industry, they will gain a small market share, and rivalry will also intensify among the players or among the companies in that industry. The position of existing firms is stronger if there are strong barriers to entering the market. Suppose if there are strong or hard barriers for the new entrants to fulfill or overcome to enter into the market, you find the position of the existing firms is very, very strong. If barriers to entry into an industry are low, then the threat of new entrants will be high and vice versa. Barriers to entry are therefore very important in determining the threat of new entrants. An industry can have one or more barriers. The following are common examples of successful barriers in an industry. Let's have a look at the 6 different sort of barriers to entry. Number 1, investment cost. If the investment cost is very high, definitely it is a high barrier for a company to enter into such industry. High capital requirements might mean that only large business houses can compete with other companies in that industry. The second barrier to entry is economies of scale available to existing firms. In case we find the existing firms in an industry have maximized their production, established their market share, by virtue of that they are able to bring down the cost of making every unit as low as possible. In that occasion, this is a bigger threat for the new entrants to enter into such industry and compete with the giant firms which have already established. The third one is about regulatory and legal restrictions. If there are high or hard restrictions to be fulfilled to enter into an industry, definitely it is a hurdle for the new entrants to enter into such industries. Suppose patents provide the patent holder with protection, at least in the short run. That is what, the example given here. Product differentiation, including branding. When you find the existing companies have developed and established strong brands through the products in that industry, I am sure it is a bigger threat for the new companies to enter into such industry and compete with the stronger brands with the support of their new brands. Then the next point of barrier to entry here is access to suppliers and distribution channels. Suppose the access to the suppliers and the distribution channels by new companies in an industry is very difficult, or very difficult to get the cooperation and support of the existing channel system or the channel intermediaries and also the suppliers. It would be a greater hurdle for the new entrants to enter into such industry. Retaliation by established products. Example, the threat of price war will act to discourage new entrants, but note that competition law outlaws actions like predatory pricing. However, when new companies enter into an industry, definitely we can find the giant established companies get into price war. They cut down the price. And sometimes you find a few companies set the price which is below than the cost to chase the new entrants out of the market, and thereafter they will slowly restore the pricing of their established brands. What makes an industry easy or difficult to enter? The following table helps summarize the issues you should consider. Easy to enter, the aspects are presented in one side. Difficult to enter, aspects are presented in the other side. Let us get into the details of aspects with regard to easy to enter into an industry. Common technology. access to distribution channel, which could be easier. If you find in an industry the technology being followed by the existing companies is nothing but a common technology, which could be very easily adopted or utilized by new entrants, you find new companies can easily enter into such industries. And moreover, access to distribution channels is made easier. If access to distribution channels is made easier, it is easy for the new entrants to enter into such industry. Another aspect which will motivate the new entrants to enter into a few industries like low capital requirements, no need to have high capacity and output. You can start from an average or low level of production capacity and slowly you can increase it upon based on the necessity or increased demand for your product. If that facility is available, it is another motivating factor for the new companies to enter into such industry. The next one is about absence of strong brands and customer loyalty will be a great motivating aspect for the new companies to enter into such industries. What about the aspects which will make the new entrants to find difficult to enter into a few industries? Patent or proprietary know-how. Well-established brands are already there in the market. Restricted distribution channels. Utilization of the existing channels is not really possible for the new entrants. High capital requirements in the beginning itself. It's a bigger threat for the new entrants to get into such industries. Next one is about need to achieve economies of scale for acceptable unit cost. It is not possible for all the companies in the beginning itself to achieve economies of scale. When can you achieve economies of scale? When you involve in large scale of production, you can very well achieve economies of scale in your production process and bring down the cost of making every unit as low as possible. It is not really possible for a new entrant in any industry for that matter. The next force of competition that has been suggested by Michael Porter is bargaining power of suppliers. If a firm's suppliers have bargaining power, they will exercise that power and suppress the interest of the buyers, sell their products at a higher price, squeeze industry profits. These three activities will be carried out by the suppliers in an industry where they have high bargaining power over the buyers. If the supplier forces up the price paid for inputs, profits will be reduced for the buyers. It follows that the more powerful the customer or the buyer, the lower the price that can be achieved from them. Suppliers find themselves in a powerful position when there are only a few large suppliers. Obviously, when you find a very handful of suppliers who supply the raw material for making your product, you find your suppliers have very strong bargaining power. The resource they supply is very scarce. The cost of switching to an alternative supplier is very high on the part of you. So obviously, it threatens you to continue with your existing supplier. The product is easy to distinguish and loyal customers are reluctant to switch. When you want to go for switching, when you want to change the raw material, when you want to change the supplier, it is a bigger threat for a few companies that they might lose their loyal customers. It's because of the change in the input which you are going to have in your product. The supplier can threaten to integrate vertically. Definitely there is a possibility for giant suppliers to integrate the buying concern. So the concerns which keep supplying raw materials will involve in manufacturing the product. They might come down a bit and take over your concern or a concern which is at your level, and they might emerge as a competing concern at your platform. The customer is small and unimportant. When the supplier find you, the buyer, as very small organization and unimportant, the supplier tends to have more bargaining power. There are no or few substitute resources available. Even if you want to go for change of the input with the support of alternative material available, if that is not available, you don't have any other go other than simply following or sticking to your existing supplier who dictates terms with you. Bargaining power of suppliers continues. How much power the supplier has is determined by a few factors such as uniqueness of the input supplied. Suppose if a supplier supplies a material with unique quality which you don't find with any other alternates available or with any other concerns, such a supplier gains more bargaining power over the buyers. Number and size of firms supplying the resources. If you find the number of firms supplying a particular type of material or resource is limited in an industry, those few suppliers will gain enormous bargaining power over the buyers. Then the next one is about competition for the input from other industries. If there is great competition, the supplier will be in a stronger position. In case you as a concern find an alternate or substitute for the material which you use, when there is an alternate material available for your product, when you think of moving or switching towards such alternate available for the present raw material you make use, you can very well enter provided there is no stiff competition in that industry which is going to supply the new raw material which you opt for. That's another point. Cost of switching to alternate resources. If the cost of switching to alternate resources is very high, not really a profit making exercise, what you do, you continue to tolerate the pressure from your suppliers who have got high bargaining power. And the next one is about the third aspect, which is a force of competition suggested by Michael Porter, is bargaining power of customers. Powerful customers are able to exert pressure to drive down prices or to increase the required quality for the same price and therefore reduce profits in an industry. When you find your customers very powerful, they really exert pressure over you. What part? To drive them to bring down the prices. Or what they do? They demand increased quality and quantity of your product at the same price. And therefore, you find your profit is considerably reduced. Several factors determine the bargaining power of customers. They are number of customers. If the number of customers is very, very small, the customers have more bargaining power. Then the next one is about the size of their orders. If the size of the orders of the customers is very, very high and large in terms of volume, such customers will definitely have more bargaining power. A good example that comes to my mind is Walmart. Walmart really dictates terms with so many multinational companies. It's because every order it makes for every product is very, very large in terms of volume. So no company in the world wants to damage the good terms they maintain with Walmart. Then the next one is about number of firms supplying the product. If the number of firms supplying the product is very large, obviously the customers will have more bargaining power. The threat of integrating backwards. What is this? Threat of integrating backwards. Some of the customers, some of the concerns which buy products or their raw material from you might be very giant, and they could really threaten you that they might either acquire your firm or they might create another firm in your platform which could supply raw material to other concerns also. So they might create an opportunity for developing a competitor for you. That's what about the idea here they speak about. The next one, the cost of switching. If the cost of switching is very low, definitely your customers will tend to have high bargaining power. Customers tend to enjoy strong bargaining power when there are only a few of them. The customer purchases a significant proportion of output of an industry. For example, Walmart, they possess a credible backward integration threat, that is, they threaten to buy the producing firm or its rivals, or they can create a new one and make it as a rival for you in your industry. Then they can choose from a wide range of supply firms. The last one is about they can find it easy and inexpensive to switch to alternative suppliers. In these situations, you find the buyers are vested with more bargaining powers. Then the next force of competition is threat of substitute products. A substitute product can be regarded as something that meets the same need. A good substitute for tea is nothing but coffee. A good substitute for road transportation is air transportation or water transportation, etc. Substitute products are produced in a different industry but crucially satisfy the same customer need. If there are many credible substitutes to a firm's product, they will limit the price that can be charged and will reduce the industry profits. The extent of threat depends upon, number one, the extent to which the price and performance of the substitute can match the industry's product, the willingness of customers to switch, the customer's loyalty and switching cost. Then the next one is about if there is a threat from a rival product, the firm will have to improve the performance of their products by reducing cost and therefore prices and by differentiation. The last force of competition suggested by Michael Porter is overall degree of competition or rivalry. If there is intense rivalry in an industry, it will encourage businesses to engage in price wars between one and other, investment in innovation and new products, intensive promotion. Now you can very well evidence the sort of promotion which is being carried out by Coca-Cola and Pepsi. If Coke releases one advertisement in a channel for every 5 minutes, definitely you find Pepsi also releases at least one advertisement in the same channel. Then the next one is about all these activities are likely to increase the cost and lower profits. Several factors determine the degree of competitive rivalry. The main ones are number of competitors in the market. If you find more competitors in the market, and definitely you will be spending too much of your money to compete with one another, and that will eventually increase the cost and bring down the profit. Market size and growth prospects. Competition is always most intense in stagnating markets. The next one is about product differentiation and brand loyalty. The greater the customer loyalty, the less intense the competition in an industry. The lower the degree of product differentiation, the greater the intensity of price competition. This is another fantastic aspect. And the next one is about the power of buyers and the availability of substitutes. If buyers are strong and if close substitutes are available, there will be more intense competition. Capacity utilization is the next factor to be considered here. The existence of spare capacity will increase the intensity of competition among the players in a particular industry. The next one is the cost structure of the industry, where fixed costs are a high percentage of costs in an industry, then profits will be greatly dependent on the volume of production and sales. As a result, there will be intense competition over market shares. And the last factor to be discussed here is exit barriers. If it is difficult for a company or expensive for a company to come out of an industry, looking at the loss in the future or to avoid the loss in the future, definitely the firms will remain in that industry and thus adding to the intensity of competition. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I have done my lecture very satisfactorily or up to a level of satisfaction on the topic 5 forces that determine the level of competition in an industry, contributed by Michael E. Porter. I'll meet you in another video. Bye for now, everyone.